Okay, hi again everyone. Here we are, back to our statistics class notes. We're on page 42, and we're in our last section in chapter 3, section 3.5, using box plots to display summaries. So a box plot and a 5-number summary are the two main topics of this section, and a box plot is a really nice way to show a quick summary of the data. But before we understand what a box plot is, we need to understand a 5-number summary, because the box plot quickly gives us this 5-number summary. So the 5-number summary is a quick and convenient description of where the 4 quarters of the data fall. So it consists of the minimum value in the entire data set, the smallest number in the data set, Q1, which I'll explain, which we already explained. That's the first quartile, where you have 25% of the data below it and 75% of the data above it. The median, also known as Q2, or the second quartile, but that's where about 50% is below and about 50% above, right? The median, remember, is the middle number of your data set. Q3, the third quartile, where 75% of the data is below that and 25% of the data is above it, and the maximum listed in that particular order. So it goes minimum, Q1, the median, Q3, and the maximum. Minimum is the absolute smallest number, and the maximum is the absolute biggest number in your data set, and they're always given in that order. So, for example number 47. Here's a table that reports the average monthly temperatures for Lanai City, Hawaii, and St. Augustine, Florida. So I can quickly scan that, and the data is raw, and it's kind of hard to tell differences between the two cities, just quick scanning that. So what we do is we construct a 5-number summary for Lanai City and St. Augustine. And we can see that the minimum value in St. Augustine, if you were to glance up here, the smallest number you'd see for Lanai City is this 66, which happened in January. And in St. Augustine, that's 57, also happening in January. The lower quartile, the median, the upper quartile, or the first quartile and the third quartile is normally what I call them, is not as easy to find. So what we do is we use StatCrunch to find these things, and we have them. And then the maximum number is the biggest number in the data set. So these are what's called the 5-number summaries for each of these two very small data sets. The 5-number summary forms a basis for a visual display called a box plot. Now, given here is the box plot for Lanai City and St. Augustine. And we can label the box plot for St. Augustine appropriately. Notice that we have the minimum value. We have Q1. So the box goes from Q1 to Q3, and then there's a line in the middle for the median, or Q2. Okay, somewhere in the middle. It might not be right in the middle because the median is the middle number, but this box goes from Q1 to Q3, and then the maximum number is on the far side. Now, the maximum and the minimum occur at these values, which are called fences, and I'll talk much more about the fences again, but right now, there is no apparent outliers, because if there were outliers, they would be below the fences, and the minimum number would be at the smallest outlier. The maximum number would be at the largest outlier. So this example does not have any outliers, and I'll show you an example in a bit that does have outliers. So if I'm looking over here at St. Augustine's, first of all, we can compare our two distributions and see that Augustine seems to have a much wider spread, right? The IQR, which is Q3 minus Q1, is much bigger, right? The median is about the same, and the minimum and the maximum are definitely smaller and bigger than the minimum and maximum up for Lanai City. But that's how you can quickly label them. So here's the minimum, 57. This is Q1, the first quartile, 61. This is the median, or Q2, which is 70.5. This is Q3, which is 79, and this is the maximum, which is 81. Again, if there were outliers, you would see them as dots beyond the fences, and that would be the minimum. The minimum would be to the smallest dot, and the maximum would be to the largest dot. But we don't have any outliers, so there's nothing to label there.